July 14, 1942, Portland, Oregon. The sun was barely rising over the Oregon skyline, but the hum of industry had already begun. Outside the Kaiser Shipyards, a sense of urgency hung in the air, as if the weight of the world was pressing down on this small corner of America. Inside, workers, some men but mostly women and the elderly, moved with a practiced, synchronized precision that would astonish the world. The sound of riveting hammers, whirring drills, and grinding metal echoed through the yard, creating a constant symphony of wartime production. The war had been raging across the globe for nearly 3 years now, and with each passing day, the need for supplies, particularly ships to transport men and material to the front lines, grew more critical. The Allied powers had their backs against the wall. Every week, it seemed, new battles demanded more resources, and the war machine was strained under the weight of endless demands. In the United States, President Franklin D. Roosevelt had called for a wartime production effort like no other. The Liberty Ship program, designed to rapidly build cargo ships for transporting war materials, was the lifeblood of the American war effort. With the Axis powers tightening their grip on Europe and Asia, the need for efficient, quickly built ships to supply Allied forces was more urgent than ever. Kaiser Shipyards, one of the largest and most efficient shipbuilding facilities in the nation, was pushing the limits of what was considered possible. The construction of a Liberty ship, which typically took several months, had now been condensed to a staggering few weeks. But even this was not enough. By the summer of 1942, the U.S. military needed an unprecedented solution. The question was, not if this could be done, but how quickly could it be done? 4 days. That's the target, the yard's foreman, Henry J. Kaiser, said to his team, the weight of the words sinking in. His voice was steady, but there was an underlying tension, a recognition of what was at stake. The Kaiser Shipyards had already set new records in production, but what they were about to attempt would be unlike anything the world had seen. The task was clear. 27 Liberty ships, completed in just 4 days. The magnitude of what was being asked seemed impossible. It would require ingenuity, determination, and a workforce willing to sacrifice everything to ensure victory in the war. Workers, many of whom had no prior experience in shipbuilding, would be tasked with assembling massive vessels in record time. The pressure was immense, but so too was the resolve of the men and women working on the docks. They knew the stakes. The clock was ticking, and every hour that passed seemed to add weight to the challenge ahead. Yet the Kaiser Shipyards had something that no other yard had: the relentless will of its workers, the indomitable spirit of American industry, and an unshakable belief in victory. The first keel was laid, and the race began. July 16, 1942, Kaiser Shipyards, Portland. The day began like any other, but by noon something extraordinary was happening. Inside the Kaiser Shipyards, the workers were pushing boundaries, setting up assembly lines not for cars or planes, but for ships, and they were working faster than anyone thought possible. The Liberty ship, a cargo vessel designed to carry vital materials across the seas, had been meticulously engineered for speed and efficiency in its construction. However, even with its standardized parts, building a ship in such a short time frame required rethinking. Every aspect of the process, every second counted. Workers hurried between stations, each playing a vital role in the assembly line. At the heart of the effort was the modular system of shipbuilding that had been pioneered by Kaiser. Each section of the ship was prefabricated in smaller, manageable units, which could be quickly transported to the main yard for assembly. Once they arrived, the workers connected the parts with staggering speed, a process that would have taken traditional shipyards weeks to accomplish. But there was more to it than just speed. Kaiser understood the importance of teamwork and morale. The workforce was diverse, made up of both men and women from all walks of life. Women, many of whom had never held a job before the war, were now filling critical roles, riveting, welding, and assembling massive pieces of metal. There were African Americans, Hispanic workers, and Japanese Americans who were imprisoned in camps across the country, but were still willing to contribute to the war effort in any way they could. At each station, there was a sense of urgency but also a unity. Each person knew that they were part of something larger than themselves. They were part of an effort that could change the course of the war. The factory floor was a blend of intense concentration and focused movement. The workers would say later that it felt like they were in the middle of a race against time, yet it was a race they knew they could win. But it wasn't just about speed. The quality of the ships being built was just as important. Kaiser's Liberty ships were known for their rugged reliability. In fact, the ships were designed with one specific purpose in mind: to survive the harsh conditions of the war and transport crucial supplies to the front lines. The workers knew they were building something that would endure, something that would directly impact the outcome of the war. By the end of the second day, the framework for the first of the 27 ships had been assembled. The workers, drenched in sweat but driven by the urgency of their mission, continued to work through the night, fueled by a shared vision of victory. The world had never seen anything like this before. A shipyard that could produce massive cargo, ships in just days, it seemed impossible. And yet it was happening right before their eyes. July 19, 1942, Kaiser Shipyards, Portland. By the fourth day, it was clear that the workers at Kaiser Shipyards had accomplished something truly extraordinary. The 27 ships, all part of the Liberty ship program, had been built in just 4 days. It was a feat that shocked the world, setting a new benchmark for industrial production during wartime. As the workers stood back and looked at the colossal vessels they had just created, they couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of pride. What had seemed impossible had been achieved. The process had been chaotic, fast-paced, and exhausting. But every piece had fallen into place. Workers had utilized every minute of the 96-hour deadline, and despite the intensity, the ships were delivered with a level of craftsmanship that surpassed expectations. The ships, once thought to be an impossible target, were now docked at Kaiser Shipyards, ready to embark on their journey to support Allied troops across the globe. But the success was not just in the numbers, it was in the sheer spirit of the workers. They had taken what seemed like a dream and turned it into reality. Kaiser Shipyards had proven that American industry, when pressed, could perform the impossible. This wasn't just about building ships. It was about sending a message to the Axis powers. The United States was ready to meet the challenges of the war head-on. The Liberty ship program, with its unprecedented production rate, would go on to become the backbone of the Allied logistics effort, ensuring that troops were supplied and war materials were delivered across every theater of the conflict. The story of those 4 days would become legendary, a symbol of America's industrial might, ingenuity, and determination to win the war.